pushed.
Hi, thanks for letting me interview you during this hard time. So my first question is, who in your family has Alzheimer's or had?
Yeah, my mom had Alzheimer's.
When were they diagnosed with it?
I don't know when she was diagnosed exactly. Both her and her sister both had it. And I would say it was probably 3 years ago that we knew that she had it. But our sister died 2 years ago. So her sister was diagnosed probably 4 or 5 years before that. So both my aunt and my mom.
Okay. How long did your mom have Alzheimer's before she passed away?
She probably had it, I don't know, I would say probably, I guess she had it for probably 4 years or so. We just didn't know it at first. It was kind of gradual.
Yeah.
Like a lot of like losing her phone and losing her purse. She lost her purse a lot. And looking for those things. In the beginning, it was kind of a lot of like running around looking for these things.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of how it starts, kind of gradually. Don't really know why they're looking for the same thing over and over. Yeah.
How is your family coping with this loss?
I think that, you know, there's 6 of us kids, and I think everybody is doing okay right now. It's tough. I think some of us were there to say goodbye, and some of us weren't.
Yeah.
So it was hard for the ones who didn't make it there in time. But for those of us who were there, like seeing that whole thing, and at the end, and how confused she was, it was really difficult. I think because there's so many kids in my family, we're all leaning on each other right now, and we've gotten a lot closer to each other, and just because of that. So that's the one thing I think that's keeping us all together.
Do you remember what her progression of symptoms were as she got worse?
I do, and I can tell you that like I had a really hard time over the last couple of months because it got so bad so fast. A couple of years ago, like I said, it was like losing her wallet and losing her keys and losing her purse. She lost her purse all the time, and then she got a little bit worse and a little bit worse, and she couldn't. Her meds were a big issue because she was diabetic, so she couldn't remember if she took her medicine, and then did she take it or did she not? And so we asked the facility that she was living in to take over her meds, and they did. But then she would get mad because they would say, well, we already gave you your meds, and she would get mad and say, I did not take my medicine, I didn't take it, and get in an argument. So she would, like, sometimes she'd go to lunch and leave the facility and not know that she didn't take her meds, and she can't do that. As diabetic, you can die. So there were a few times that she like fell in the facility, and then finally one time she fell, and they took her to the hospital, and they said she can't come back. She's dangerous to herself. So we moved her to a new facility, and the new facility, we had them take over her meds right away. And so from a health perspective, she was doing really good. They came in, they gave her meds. She was on top of it. But then she just got worse with forgetting and everything. Like she couldn't remember where she's at. I'd find her walking the halls, and she'd be crying, and she'd know where she was at. So it was a gradual progression, and then all of a sudden, when we moved her, she got worse really fast. A couple of years ago, she couldn't remember who I was. A couple times she'd talk to me and say, have you talked to Linda today? And I'd be like, oh, that's me. So, yeah, I guess. I don't know how to answer that. It was kind of a weird thing, but but the last couple months, it was really rapid, where she couldn't really remember a lot. She thought that we were her sisters and brothers, and she thought her mom was with her a lot, and she would get very confused, you know, like she would say she ate and she didn't eat. Just, you know, it was just really all over, really hard to talk to her even. Yeah. Couldn't talk to her on the phone anymore. She didn't know what the phone was anymore, so it would be sitting right next to her, and it would be ringing, and she wouldn't really know what to do with it. Yeah. And she would just sit there, and then one time she kept saying that she thought her phone was unplugged, so my nephew called her, and he was sitting next to her, and she didn't answer. And finally my sister answered and said hello, and then she said, here, it's for you, to my mom. And she was like looking at it like she didn't know what the phone was. Yeah. And she was like, hello. And then my nephew goes, never mind, I have to go. He was sitting right next to her and hung up. And then she said, well, who was that? My mom said, well, that was your brother or something. And it wasn't. It was him. He was sitting right next to her. And she was so gone at that point that she didn't really understand. Like, you couldn't talk to her on the phone anymore, and you couldn't, you know, she didn't know who half the people were, and she couldn't remember words. Like, that's the other thing with it. When they progress so far, then eventually they get to a point where they can't remember words. Like, they would say, that, you know, that thing, you know, the thing, and you would say the couch, and she'd say, yeah, yep, whatever the word is, it didn't matter. Like, you could be right, you could be wrong. And she would say, yeah, that, yep, that, you know. So it gets, and then the other thing, which I didn't really know was a thing until I watched a show on Alzheimer's, because I wanted to learn more about it and how to talk to her, because sometimes she would remember things, so you don't want to say something that's wrong, because it might be the one nugget that she remembered. So then I would say, like, do I lie or do I tell her the truth? And then some lady said, well, we call them therapeutic lies. You just tell them what makes them feel better at the time. But there's a thing that they go through where they have, they think that there's bugs, some of them do, on them or on their food or in their bed or wherever. And so she, like, I brought her food and said, here's some food, and she was like, I can't eat that, there's bugs all over it. So then we would, like, they're all gone, and then she'd be like, okay, now I can eat it. Like, it's really I mean, it's I guess that's a big part of it, is kind of hallucinating, which I don't think that they talk about a lot. Like, she thought that there were people in her room with her. Sometimes she would say there was a man that came and got in bed with her, and she would say, I don't know who he is, but he came in my room last night and he got in the bed and went to sleep, and there wasn't. A lot of times she would say there are people that come in her room, and sometimes I thought maybe they were the nurses, but I don't think so. They were just kind of random people. And then there were a lot of times when she thought she had kids that she had to watch, and she would say, I'm missing these kids and I don't know where they are, and I'm really mad because I can't find the kids and I'm not sure what to do. And then the other thing that she did was that she would call me crying a lot, because she didn't think she had talked to me in a really long time, and she wanted to know when I was coming home. And I was like, I'm on my way, I'll be there soon, but you can't always go home. And she couldn't always call me crying, because she couldn't remember my number. So usually it was with my sisters when I were there, and then they would call and say, she's sitting here and she's crying because she's upset because you're not here, and you haven't called her in a month. And I'm like, I talked to her yesterday. And then, so for a while, it was like, every time I talked to her, she would call crying, and I was like, I can't keep having her call me when she's crying. It's too hard on everyone. I don't know how to make her feel better. So I would get on the phone and then she would be okay. And then the next day she'd call crying. Like, she didn't remember that she had talked to me. It's a really weird, it doesn't make any sense, and it didn't make any sense for me, and I couldn't figure out how to make her feel better for longer periods of time. That was kind of why I started going to the group, because I was like, what do I do to make her feel better? And they said, tell her whatever makes her feel better. Just like I was saying, like, she would hold things in her hands, but there was nothing there. So my sisters would take it out of her hands and throw it on the ground, and then her hands would relax. They'd say, I got it, Mom. You don't need to hold it anymore. There's nothing there. Whatever you could do to make her feel better is what we did. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it works. You know?
Who did she live with before she was moved to the care facility?
She lived with my sister Laura. Laura's a nurse, and they lived together for like 10 years. And then we moved her to the facility because, you know, during the day she was kind of home alone. She would sometimes go and get gas and go play bingo or whatever, but we wanted her to be around people of her generation so she could have, you know, kind of a social circle. And they would play like Trivial Pursuit or whatever kind of trivia games that they had, and she loved it. And they, you know, the people were really nice, and she really liked it when she first moved there, and she had a lot of friends. But then eventually, you know, she started to get more and more sick and not really remember who anybody was, so she eventually started to kind of be on her own more and kind of stay in her room more. Other than when we would go get her, like 6 kids in my family, everybody was there enough that the facility knew all of us. You know, taking her out to dinner and stuff, but toward then she didn't go out at all.
When she lived with your sister, did she need a lot of help doing things?
Yeah, she did. She needed help with, you know, just kind of the everyday stuff. I think my sister was pretty good about, you know, making sure that she had everything that she needed. You know, she would try to cook every once in a while, and she would, you know, she could like take care of herself, but like her laundry and shopping and all that stuff she couldn't really do. So my sister did most of that for her. And like paid her bills and all of that. That was all my sister did most of that for her.
And my last question is, do you have anything to say or any advice to give to someone who's struggling with taking care of their loved one who has Alzheimer's?
That's a tough one. I think it's a really tough disease. There's no way to predict. Like when I went to the meeting, I thought it would be good because I thought they would give me like an idea of what to expect. But there's just no way of knowing what is next.
Yeah.
And like somebody would say, like I would say, well, she thinks there's bugs on her food. That's a stage. Well, what stage is it? Well, there's no stage. Like there's no like it goes from 1, 2, 3. It's just whatever. So I think in the beginning I was trying to kind of make sense out of it, but there's no way to make sense out of it. There's no way to understand what those people are going through. I would say this, like I've said this before after she passed away. I love my husband and my kids. Like they're my whole heart, you know? And then I say, well, imagine like if it wasn't really real. Like in my head I had made up my husband and my kids, but that wasn't ever really real. That was just me in my fantasy world. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's this whole thing that you think is reality, and it's not. And there's really no way to understand it at all, I don't think. So for me, like, I think the thing that I hear the most is people get frustrated because you have to say the same things over and over.
Yeah.
I would say for us, like, I think we got lucky because my mom got really sick when she started to really decline to the point where she couldn't say things, and you saw in the video, like she couldn't talk and make sense, and she passed away. But the people in my group, their parents are still there, and they can't talk at all, and they can't do anything. And they know that they're in great health, and that it could be 10 years that they're going to live like that, where nothing in their world is reality. And so these people in my group all have this great deal of patience. But I have another friend whose sister has no patience for their mom, and it's hard. So I think A, the group is helpful to me. It was really helpful. And for those people, it's helpful. And B, I think you can't reason with it. There's nothing that makes any sense about it. So I think the only thing that you can do is just be there for that person, because you have to understand that they're going through something that's completely foreign. The only way you can put it into perspective is to say take something in your world and flip it completely upside down and then say, and that's your new world. How does that feel? Like, it doesn't make any sense, but it's kind of the way that it is, you know, so you have to just accept it and love that person, even though, you know, they'll never be the same person that they were, you know. So I don't know if that helps, but it certainly is the only way that I could kind of come to grips with it.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.